podcast with Lonzo in command. Brought to you by Compton Entertainment Chamber, across the land. News and information, straight and uncut, we deliver. Real talk every time, sharp like a sliver. Like and subscribe, stay tuned, let's fly.
Hey folks, this is Lonzo, the editor-in-chief of the Hub City Legend digital newspaper here in the city of Compton. And today I am interviewing a young lady who I met in Compton. I just found out in the pre-interview that she's no longer there, but that's okay. She still got roots in the CPT. Candi, her name is Candi, but she go by the moniker of Dope Candi. Welcome to Hub City Legend podcast. How you doing, Dope Candi?
I'm doing well.
All right, now first thing I got to ask you, how'd you get the name Dope Candi?
Well, my name is Candace, but no one ever called me that since birth. It was Candi. And I started making beats pretty young. And so when I would play them for people, everybody would be like, Candi, that's dope. And so everything that I've done, everyone's like, Candi, that's dope. So I'm like, Dope Candi. That makes sense. So it just kind of came.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you say you've been making beats for quite some time. How long you think how long has that been?
I started making beats in middle school, around 12 years old.
Okay. So about 4 or 5 years now, right now. Anyway, what is your system of choice? What do you prefer? What's your DAW of choice?
Well, I started on an MPC 2000.
Okay.
So that was always my first love. But I transitioned throughout the years. I also teach all the DAWs. So right now I'm in Ableton, but I'm pretty proficient in just about, all the popular ones. So Logic, Pro Tools, same.
Now, did you go to school for that? Or something you picked up, on your own?
No, I did not go to school for it. My family is musicians, so I kind of grew up in a studio around it and just gravitated towards it. Started messing with the pads early on and composing with the chord keyboard and picked it up. So I didn't go to school for that. I went to school for business. But yeah, I stayed in music throughout the entire duration.
Gotcha. Now, let's put a pin right there for a second. Let's talk about Candi, Dope Candi. Where you from? Tell me about you. Give me your background. I know you was at Centennial for a while doing the music thing at Centennial. Tell me what you've been doing. Tell me where you started and where you are now.
Where did I start? Okay, so I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. That's where I was born and raised. Like I said, my family were musicians, so my mom was a singer-songwriter. She grew up doing that pretty young. So I was kind of born into it. She collaborated with a lot of people, even from the West Coast. So I would say the first generation of the West Coast legends of Snoop and Dre, they had a lot of musicians from Detroit that they worked with at the time. And so my mom worked with them. So I was pretty exposed pretty young. So I started making music during that, like middle school, like I said, just being around it in the studio. I jumped in being an artist for a while, songwriter, the whole shebang, but I chose to go to school for business instead, which was cool because I felt like, you develop the talent. That's not something you really need a degree in.
Right.
And from that, went to Chicago, was there for a while, moving amongst the music, camps and crews, had my own studio for some time, and then ended up out here on the West Coast. So I've been here for about 6 years. And when I got here, one of the things that I've always had a hand in is music education. Mm-hmm. And so my goal was to bring the industry to the classroom and expose students to it, kind of like I was when I was younger. Okay. It wasn't in the school to have digital music production. You had your traditional music classes and things like that, but learning how to record, learning about the DAWs and all of that, that wasn't really accessible. And so when I got here, I was in the nonprofit sector and even in Chicago with young artist development and just kind of nurturing the talent of the youth. And then I got the call that, audio production program was starting in Compton, and someone was like, this might be for you. So Ended up coming there to Centennial and developing the audio production program. So I was the founding teacher and department head for 3 years over there.
That's where we met initially.
Yes.
Okay, that's where we met initially. Now I see you at the NAM show. I see you at premieres for documentaries. You get around quite a bit. That's a good thing. Now, the reason why this interview is necessary or was requested by my partner, Mr. Cole, is that she saw you on television and you are a part of the Grammy organization, correct? Remember?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, I became a member way back in Chicago initially, a part of Grammy U. And I
Okay.
talk about that especially for young people. I remember when I graduated with my master's degree, it was in accounting, right? Like I said, I stuck with the business for school and I ended up getting a job. And I remember my first day at work, I was like, I do not belong here. And I said, I need to be at the Grammy. So while I'm literally there in training, I started Googling, how do I get to the Grammys, right? And so I'm on their computer because
Okay.
I'm about ready to walk out. Like, this ain't it. And it Grammy U came up, and so since I was still pretty young then, I went ahead and joined Grammy U. So that's for like college age students, so post high school, college age, where you can start to get exposed to the industry, in which they invite you out to all different type of events, backstage events. So it's like you get a lot of access, and I ended up coming out to the Grammys back then for the first time. And then throughout the years, I maintained a membership. But when I moved out here, you have to switch chapters. So I became a part of the LA chapter a couple years ago. And
Right.
then pretty active on the producers and engineers side. And I joined the board committee for the producer and engineers wing.
Okay.
And essentially that gives me a seat at the table to have a voice about how things are. And I think one of the biggest things for women is for us to be able to have a seat at the table behind the boards. We're often, in the forefront as artists or songwriters, but when it comes to still producers, engineers, DJs, it's still kind of pretty, we have a lack of exposure. I'm not going to say that it's not a lot of us out of here, because it is. It's just recognized, I think, only about 6% women in the industry that are producers and engineers. So
Okay.
I'm happy to be on that board.
Gotta ask, who have you worked with in the past?
Who have I worked with? I've collaborated with a lot of our favorite producers.
Okay.
A lot of our favorite producers. I haven't had my major artist placement as of yet, so I'm still navigating the industry with collaborating, and it's cool because it's like all of my peers, I think we're just now starting to get first big placements, even though you've been doing this for like forever, like 10 plus years or something like that. But starting to record a lot of people that's starting to come and get their placements. And the industry has changed so much. It's very indie driven now, in which I work with a lot of indie artists that are out R&B, hip hop for sure. And honestly, I feel like my biggest my biggest situation, I ain't gonna say my biggest, but my biggest situation started when I was young. So I was in the studio with a whole lot of people back then. I didn't even realize who I was in the studio with. When you're young, you just show up, and
Right.
I'm showing up with my parent. But my mom used to be in the studio all the time with George Clinton and the P Funk All Stars, and
Where's your mama?
her name is Crystal. She went by Lady C, Crystal Jenkins, but back in her day, her group was called Roadwork, and she went to school with a lot of musicians from Detroit. So the
Okay.
bass player Tony Green, he's like an uncle to me, but he's worked with everybody from the Dramatics to Snoop and Dre and played bass, and
That
even
name.
sang the
Right.
hook on Gin and Juice.
Okay.
But he was the one that's like, hey, I want you to produce my artist. So he had a label back then, and I actually worked on beats, and he took me around to the studios, and I recorded and wrote the first song. And that was my start. Whoops, something fell. That was like really my start. And And I didn't even realize, I was in a space with those people. And I mention that story now. He brings it up often because I do give him credit. Like, yeah, he was the first person that I actually felt comfortable with, and he gave me like free range to do what I want at 16, 17 years old. That's not really likely for someone to do. And so that was really cool. And so it brought me to the point of growing into the space now, which I feel like, running a session and being in the rooms, that confidence and those opportunities back then led me up to now. So
Okay, sound like a winner, babe. You ASCAP or BMI?
ASCAP.
Okay, I'll look at you. Okay, I ain't gonna say that. I'm gonna leave that off. That's almost like gangbang. What you ASCAP?
ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. Where you at now?
Okay, who you rep? Okay,
Where you at?
it's now you're at Inglewood now, right?
Yeah, so Inglewood is they had a digital music program. I feel like all the schools are tapping into that space now, but yeah, we're developing it over there, curriculum and everything for the high school.
Are you the founding instructor over there as well?
I'm gonna say I'm the only instructor over there because
You got headhunted from Inglewood from Compton to Inglewood.
the only digital music production instructor over there.
Okay, all right. Well, that's an achievement right there. Women in music. How do you find the men respond to you in the musical world? I know it can go either way. It can be super respectful, super disrespectful. It all depends on the female. How do they treat you?
I mean, I demand respect, so it's only got to be one way with me. Of course, we experience different types of things. I feel like I had the best teacher, like being in a room in a space with my mom where people respected her for her talent.
Okay.
That was, and then she would just coach me. Like I would see all types of things in the studio when I was young. So it was just like I would look at her, she would look at me, and we would be like, mm-hmm. And then we would keep doing what we're doing. But of course, when you get older, I think it was more of a point when I became, in the later years of the teen years, when you start to develop your own and start to kind of develop your own independence, then it was like, okay, your training wheels is off. Like now you're in a space and I can't be with you all the time. So, I've always been about my work, and I'm glad that people were able to respect me in that space then. But when you start to move around in different cities and in different sessions and different people, it could be different. I mean, women are women, and then we're attractive and all those things. So sometimes you have people that are out of pocket. I was just telling someone the other day, you just got to check it right then and there. Check it out the door. Like there is no, I'm not playing a game. I belong in the room. I don't need to prove nothing to you.
Okay.
Or else I wouldn't be here, right? So I don't use any of this stuff, features or anything to get in the space. I'll be 100,000% who I am, but when I feel disrespected, like most of the time, I don't even show up if I feel like it ain't leading to something. Like it may be someone that's doing some great things, but I know if I came because of your approach, it's wasting my time. So then I won't even show up. But then sometimes you're in a space and someone's out of pocket, then you just got to check it at the door.
Okay. Now, I've been in the music business for 50 years. Don't tell nobody else that. And when I first got into it, the people that taught me the game, when you go to back in the day, you had to have live instruments to record.
Mm-hmm.
You had to practice at home and then play at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
They strongly recommended minimum alcohol, minimum drugs. Well, unfortunately, some artists back then can't function without it. Mm-hmm. Okay, they play better. When I was at my peak of world-class wrecking crew, we never had drugs in the studio. I had a 4-track studio at my house. Every beat was laid out on that studio before we went to the big studio and dropped the Simpty track and pushed play to make our album. It took us a week to make our album, as opposed to some people taking 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months. What differences have you seen in the beginning of your studio experiences compared to what you see right now?
Oh, I see. It's a huge difference. Technology has played a big role in that. But when I started, like I said, when T Green he took me to I remember it was his house. This was like when I was in the 8th grade. I wrote a song. I made the beat, wrote a song, and we had Lil Cash though. He was a rapper, and so he was like, "I want y'all to collaborate. He'll rap, you'll sing the song. You got the beat. We'll record at the studio. But first, we got to make sure you're ready." So we went to this house. In this room, it almost kind of looked abandoned. He probably don't even remember this, but he had the beat machine set up, the keyboard set up, everything set up. He's like, "All right, do what you need to do." And leave the room. And that's how everybody would do me. They'll be like, "All right, she good. Just leave her here. We'll come back and then we'll check on you." And then when they come back, I always got something and it was cool. But then there was a closet. So in the closet, there was a mattress in the closet. There was a microphone set up in the closet. So that was the booth. So then he was
Right.
like, "All right, you got something?" He was like, "All right, go in there and record." So that's how I would record before I went to the studio. And then I remember we did a couple takes. He was like, "All right, you ready for the studio?" And then we would go to the studio
Okay.
and then do the thing. And I have some friends that really want to, along the way that really wanted to be artists. And I would say, okay, well, you need to learn how to record yourself at home first to practice because studio costs money.
All right.
Costs money, and you don't want to waste anybody's time. When you get there, is not really, until you get to the point of being able to fully flesh it out. Practice it at home before you get to the space. And so that's how I was taught. I was taught the same way. Um, Pre-production. That's what we do. Work it
Right.
out and then
Exactly.
get to the space and do it and then knock it out. Nowadays, because of technology, and I think everybody wants to feel like they're doing, and then we got social media where you got to showcase what you're doing. And so everything has become this kind of show and tell type of space. I mean, for the real ones that know, they have the studios at home that they've built and they can really do their thing. But yeah, it's become a show and tell type of thing. And then with technology, throw some auto tune on it. We'll figure it out. The engineer take care of it. That's what it's boiled down to at this point. And that's the major difference. I think even when teaching students, it don't even feel right sometimes because their thought process is that they're supposed to do what they see instead of actually working on the craft itself. You're working on how it looks, or
Mm.
you're working on, not perfecting it. And I always tell the story, like, I come from Motown when artists, they were great. Like, they were great. And when I hear the stories about how they had to record in the studio, you had to be good and you had to be great because you didn't have the technology to do all these takes back then when you were at the studio at back in the day.
Right.
Reverb was the room. You had to
Right.
catch it at the time, at the moment. And so I come from the space of real talent, but with technology, it has made things a little bit easier for sure.
Here's you said something that touched close to me. The house that I bought a house from an old blues singer named Johnny Otis. He was a man back in the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the room I'm sitting in right now was where the band recorded, and it has a pitch roof in it. And even after I bought the house, a couple of producers came by to visit me for some whatever, and they actually recorded their bands in this room because of the natural reverb in this room. Okay, the natural reverb that this room has. Oh man, this is beautiful. How much you charge? I already charge. Well, man, I'm doing so and so and so. I'm gonna come by. Man, we've lifted Hammond organs. You ever seen a Hammond organ? That's a
Man,
massive machine, okay? We've had Hammond organs back here just because of the acoustics in this
mhm.
room. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying on that right there. How do you feel about this new digital age of music, Suno and other apps like that?
I mean, I have a twofold, I guess, opinion about it right now. I feel
Okay.
like it's like anything else that came. Like, I am a millennial, so I think I lived through every major change when it comes to technology, from not having the internet, the big giant monitors, the screen computers, the AOLs, to from getting CDs, from tapes to CDs, because when first it was cassette, then we got the CDs, and then we got Napster and LimeWire. So then we was downloading all the music. Now we could stream everything. And so I mean, I kind of lived through all of it, and it just reminds me of a time like back then when those things surfaced. And I mean, I guess the thing is like, how do we credit everybody for what they do, or how do we make sure that people use it as a tool? I have students that I teach, and they're like, I'm just gonna hop on Chat GPT to come up with the lyrics and tweak them. And I'm like, well, you know what? I remember back when I was writing songs, and amazing songwriter was like, you know what? You could just look at the lyrics. They had lyric books just to get the idea, and then tweak the words and move some stuff around. So I mean, is it kind of the same?
Right.
It's a tool. With Suno, dropping in something and then seeing what it comes up with. I mean, I just know how I would use it. Is everybody's not going to use, if you abuse the tool, right? And
Right.
if you could take it and then flip it, because it's just like if you could flip a sample, then maybe you could flip what it is that you hear, or it inspires you in some type of way to use it, and that might make your workflow a bit faster. Since everything is digital, we're up against time and speed, and you see how many songs are loaded up to the streaming platforms on a daily basis. So it's just the way the industry is shifted. It's
Right.
not the same where we have to wait on distribution. You have to wait on everything. That's not the case. You need to get to work.
Right.
So
You know what? And I'm glad you said everything you said. Ooh, if I was there, I'd hug you. I'm a part of a program called Band Buzz, and the one thing that I've been an independent all my life. I had one major record deal back in the '80s, and probably one of the worst things I ever did in my life, because it just tied me up and held me down. I couldn't move. I'm used to getting things done, and I'm involved in an app called Band Buzz, and Band Buzz is an app designed for independent artists where you can sell your music, your downloads right then and there after your gig, doing your gig. People hear something, they hear something that you're doing, they scan your QR code and just download the music, pay for it, and it's right there. Same thing with t-shirts, with backstage meet and greets, whatever the case may be. And I've always felt that signing a record deal was like putting somebody between you and your money. And I understand they have a machine to help you promote it, but if you're already grinding yourself, if you're already grinding and you're doing gigs, you're doing shows, but you don't have any way, you can't sign a digital wave. You can't, man, go to my Instagram or download. You go to my Spotify. Okay, it's fine, but you got to get so many plays just to get a penny. I thought that was an insult. That's an insult to anybody's mind. And you wonder why the level of music has declined over the years, because nobody in his right mind is going to go to the studio, hire union musicians, hire union engineers to get pennies per play. I mean, pieces of a penny per play. That makes no sense whatsoever. So you're stuck with Sexy Reds. And I know I don't know how you feel about that, but this is how you get the level of music that we complain about right now, because they have nothing invested in it. But there's no gatekeepers to keep it away. So depending on the algorithms that they upload it to, here you go. You got a hit record. How can she say that? How can they say that? Because nobody's watching the door. Is nobody watching the door?
exactly. It's and the promotion and all the things that go behind it that makes other people money that have invested in it. I mean, it's definitely a hustle. It's like somebody in their right mind put two and two together. At this point, it doesn't make any sense. But I also just think, how deals are structured and what level you are at. But in today's world, you really don't need that. If you can make your rounds, but it takes a lot of work ethic to do that too. So it's just a different time for sure.
That's another thing. A lot of youngsters don't have the same work ethic that different generations may have. You go in the bathroom and make a record come out, you a celebrity. Go to the club, you expect to be in VIP. I'm on Spotify, and so is 400 other million people. I had to slap I slapped him, but I had to check my grandson. He was so locked into a song he was trying to do. And I'm like, dude, it's okay. That ain't gonna change your life. Man, Pop, Renzo, you gotta understand, man. Bruh, slow down, man. Slow down. That ain't gonna even if it was a major hit with a million streams, you might get $5,000.
Yeah.
You might get 5 racks in 3-4 months.
You gotta be creative. I think me going to school for business was a blessing. At first, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Like, I kind of felt I was kind of wasting my time when I wanted to be creative. I kind of put myself through that process. But coming out now on this side of it, I'm like, you got to know how to structure a deal.
Okay.
Now, I get brand deals. So like I worked with Nissan for the past 3 years, and we actually released a whole vinyl record. I created the sound for the Nissan Aria electric car.
Okay.
So the industry is definitely different. Of course, back in the day, artists like Whitney and Michael, they would get brand deals with Pepsi and Coca-Cola and so on and so forth. But now everything is brand driven. And so that's where the money comes from.
Right.
If you're able to negotiate your own deal with a brand and you can kind of, put your own pieces together, and if they give you creative control, which I had, then that's great. So I worked on multiple campaigns for Nissan and a few others. I DJ too, so I get calls for brand activations all the time, and I make probably more money than most people do when they drop a record.
Okay.
Depending on where they're at in their career. But even said, I look at Lil Russell and what he's doing. You look at Nipsey and what he did. You got to be creative when you think about, okay, how am I going to monetize this art and what message am I sending? And that's really what it's about. Right.
Well, Candi, I know you at work. I ain't gonna keep you much longer. I told you, as long as you kept it interesting, I was gonna keep you on this camera, and you done.
We can talk all day.
All day. We can kick it all day. So yeah, I know you got to go back to work. Thank you for your time. You are live with Miss Dope Candi, formerly of Compton Unified. Now she's of Inglewood Unified School District, and she's making big things happen for the next generation in musicians. Candi, thank you for your time, darling. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'll see you at the next event. You have a good one. All right, babe. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Hub City Legend Podcast with Lonzo in command. Brought to you by Compton Entertainment Chamber, across the land. News and information, straight and uncut, we deliver. Real talk every time, sharp like a sliver.